The big question I have this week is, will Ogura ever forgive me for doubting him? I'm sorry, I. Welcome back to the I Told You So Tuesday podcast, where we go through my pre-race predictions for the MotoGP race. And this week it was in Austin, Texas. And this year we're doing it a little bit different. If you haven't been following along, I'm playing MotoGP Fantasy. And so we're going to look at how I'm doing fantasy-wise to see if I really did tell you so before the weekend started. So what did I tell you before the weekend? A quick recap. On my fantasy team, I had Marc Marquez as my lead rider. I also had a big boost set for him, which means I would get double points if he wins. So all the points he scores, I get double the points using that boost. You get 3 boosts a year. I used one on Marc Marquez this weekend because he's a god at COTA. I still had Alex Marquez in my second slot. I have Fabio Di Giannantonio in my third slot, and I swapped out rookie Ogura for rookie Fermin Aldeguer, mainly because of the weirdly mixed conditions that were happening on Friday, and also that massive straight at COTA that the Ducati I felt was just going to eat up. Ducati remains and probably will remain all season long as my constructor, and I still am going with the VR46 as my team. So how did I do? Well, when it comes to Marc Marquez, I totally told you so for Saturday. Totally told you so for Saturday. Marc Marquez wins the sprint race. I get double points. I also told you so on Alex Marquez, who was right there again. Get points there. Fabio Di Giannantonio, he's laying in the weeds in the middle of the pack, but does okay. Fermin Aldeguer, doesn't bring me many sprint points there, many 0. But I will say I was really banking on those Sunday points for Fermin, not so much Saturday. I think maybe I scored 1 point on Saturday, so not really much of a loss there. So I think across the board Saturday, completely told you so. I will stand by that. Completely told you what was going to go on. And by the way, I'm making these predictions before qualifying. I'm not waiting till qualifying and then looking them up and then making the predictions. I'm doing this based on the first few practice sessions alone. So I know who's through to Q2. I don't know where they're starting on the grid yet. So Saturday, locked in. I freaking told you so. Sunday, I told you that Alex Marquez was still going to be competitive. I told you so. Stick by this. Alex Marquez, going to be competitive. He was right there, second place in the main race, yet again. Absolutely told you so. Marc Marquez, the boosted Marc Marquez, going to get double points, 25 points, times 2, 50 points, going to launch me forward in the standings. Yeah, not so much. It looked like I had called this 1-2 perfect. I mean, it looked like I had it in the bag. Marc running away with it. Alex sitting pretty. Marc, the master of COTA and the master of tricky conditions, gets a little greedy on the curb going through the S's and puts himself on his face. So I do not get to say I told you so when it comes to Marc Marquez on Sunday's race. Now, he screwed me big time there. Thinking back, I maybe should have just boosted him the first 3 weeks of the season, just knowing that he was going to come in and tear apart MotoGP. I was trying to be a little more strategic with these extra possible points, kind of play from behind, playing possum there, and then boom, COTA, all, Jerez, Sachsenring, all these things that he's so good at. Really get the most of my points there later in the season and catch back up and win this fantasy league. And now I've thrown one of my boost opportunities down the frickin' road. Elsewhere, Fabio Di Giannantonio had a pretty good Saturday, mixed it up a little bit with Franco Morbidelli, was not happy with his teammate. He felt his teammate 2 weeks in a row now has basically gotten in his way, made a really rough pass on him and spoiled his race. On Sunday, that was not to be. Digia runs a really smart, really fast race, great race pace. Wasn't quite enough to deal with the front runners, but gets himself on the podium. And for your third rider in your lineup, podiums, I'll take them. That's going to move me up the leaderboard. So absolutely told you so. Digia was a lock this week to do really well. Like I said, Saturday it got a little meh, but Sunday he came through for me in a big, big way. Scored some really much needed points and kind of made up for the next guy. So on Sunday, Fermin Aldeguer, I tried to tell you so. I almost told you so. Second fastest lap of the race. was gaining on Digi at the end, passes Jack Miller into 4th place. Heck of a ride until he also threw it down the road, which he has a habit of doing. He's a young guy. He's 19 years old, but in Moto 2, sometimes when he had to get racy, he got a little crashy. And I should have just stayed with Ayagura, who not only scored points finishing Sunday race in 9th place, he also moved up from his 18th place on the grid, which would have gotten me a whole bunch of extra points for him improving so many freaking positions forward. So yeah, I should have just stuck with Ayagura, even though he was having a tough Friday and a tough Saturday. He wasn't in Q2. I should have just stuck out with my boy. I should have been behind him. I should have been there in his corner. He made the right choice at the beginning of the race. He knew it was going to be a race for slick tires. He was feeling good. Moves up to 9th place. I mean, it would have been a heap of points that I could have had and I didn't have because I didn't trust him. So I did not tell you so. Fermin Aldeguer, I still think he's a great rider. I still think he has a lot of upside, a lot of potential. He's on that Ducati. He can be a good rider. This just wasn't the weekend for me to switch to him. And so I would have loved to say I told you so. I came really close. A 5th place finish for Aldeguer would have been a big, fat I told you so, and I didn't get to do that. So, yeah. Not good at all. Now, where else I told you so is obviously the Ducati constructors. Of course I told you so. And if you're not believing me at this point, I don't even know if we're watching the same sport, so we can just move past that. On the team side, a couple weeks ago, I gave up the factory KTM team to take the VR46 team, and that was an absolutely I told you so this week. VR46 comes through hard with Digia on the podium, couple spaces back, Franco Morbidelli. He also finished well in the sprint, scored points on both Saturday and Sunday. I'm struggling to see a team that I could afford under my salary cap that is going to perform better right now than VR46. I think Gresini, if we could get Aldeguer up the ladder a little bit, if we could get him finishing 8th, 9th, they might be a good option with Alex Marquez riding so well. The Yamaha guys aren't there. We've got one rider in each Yamaha camp that's doing okay, but we need this combined rider. Pedro Acosta crashing too much. I don't trust the KTM guys right now. They just don't look comfortable on the bike, so I can't go with them to be my team. Right now, it feels like I have to roll with VR46. Again, for what I can afford, because right now I'm going to be picking a top-tier rider like a Marquez, like a Pecco. I'm going to be spending a heap of money on them. I've got Alex Marquez. So when it comes to teams, I'm a little limited with my budget, but VR46, I told you so. You heard it here. I'll probably roll with them next week unless something crazy bonkers happens. So how am I doing on fantasy so far? I think I've moved up a couple spots from 11th in my league of 27 to 9th, moving forward slowly. Marc Marquez crashing, I won't lie, probably hurt every single person in my league. I can't think of anyone who didn't have Marc. There might be 1 or 2 people that went with Pecco, but I'm pretty sure everyone had Marc on their team. It hurt us all very, very dearly, but it's a good thing that it hurt them as bad as it hurt me. And so now I just have to look where I can pick these little points up along the way and claw back. So 9th out of 27th, I'm not going to cry about that. Top half, yeah, I can keep my MotoGP cred for one more week.